The wind whispered through the trees. It carried a name, Black Hollow. Even the sunlight seemed to shy away from this place. Locals knew its dark history. They knew the stories. Stories of souls lost, never to find peace. The forest stood silent, a watchful guardian of its secrets. It was a place of shadows and sorrow. Black Hollow had once been a peaceful valley. A small community had lived there. Then tragedy struck. A devastating fire swept through the valley. It consumed everything in its path, leaving only ash and silence. The townsfolk believed the souls of the deceased remained. They were tethered to the place of their demise. Over time, whispers of strange occurrences began to surface. Travelers passing through the area reported unsettling noises. Eerie lights flickered through the dense trees. Some even claimed to have seen spectral figures wandering the woods. The stories spread, weaving their way into the fabric of the town's folklore. Black Hollow became a place to avoid. It was a scar on the landscape. It served as a chilling reminder of the darkness that could lurk beneath the surface of the ordinary. The name alone was enough to send shivers down the spines of even the most skeptical residents. They knew the truth lay hidden in the heart of the hollow. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to subscribe for more haunting stories. Join us as we uncover the mysteries of Black Hollow and beyond. Lily arrived in the dying light of dusk. Her eyes were drawn to the silhouette of the forest on the hill. It was like a creature, waiting to be awakened. She had come seeking solace, a refuge from her own demons. The town, with its hushed whispers and wary glances, seemed to offer the perfect escape. She found a room in a boarding house. It was perched atop the highest hill. The windows looked out over the town and the looming presence of Black Hollow. The landlady, Mrs. Hawthorne, had kind eyes but a weary soul. She spoke of the hollow with a mixture of fear and reverence.
"Best stay clear of those woods, dear," she warned, her voice a low murmur. "Especially at night. Some things are best left undisturbed."
Lily nodded politely, but her curiosity was piqued. There was a flicker of something in Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes. It was a glimpse of a story untold. Lily was already drawn to the mystery. She could feel it tugging at the edges of her mind. That night, as the moon cast long shadows across the floor, Lily couldn't resist the pull any longer. She found herself drawn to the window. The silhouette of the forest beckoned her. The path was overgrown, almost swallowed by the encroaching woods. Each step deeper into Black Hollow felt heavier than the last. The air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy of trees. The silence was absolute, broken only by the sound of Lily's own breath. She had ignored Mrs. Hawthorne's warnings. A part of her craved the solitude. Perhaps another part sought something more. She felt inexplicably drawn to the darkness that clung to the hollow. It was as if something within her recognized a kindred spirit in the shadows. The trees pressed closer, their branches intertwining overhead like skeletal fingers. The path beneath her feet disappeared. She found herself walking on a carpet of dead leaves. They crunched softly with each step. The forest seemed to be closing in, suffocating her with its oppressive silence. Then she heard it. A faint whisper carried on the breeze. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Lily stopped, her heart pounding in her chest. She listened intently, straining to make sense of the sound. It was a name, barely audible but undeniably clear. Her own name. Lily's breath caught in her throat. The whisper had been so soft, so fleeting. Had she imagined it? She stood frozen, listening for any repetition, any confirmation that she wasn't alone. The silence pressed in, heavy and absolute. She chided herself for her foolishness. It was just the wind playing tricks on her nerves. But deep down, a shiver of unease ran through her. The forest seemed to hold its breath, watching her, waiting. As she ventured deeper, the whispers returned. They were faint at first, like the rustling of leaves underfoot, but gradually they grew louder, more insistent. They swirled around her, taunting her with their proximity, yet remaining frustratingly out of reach. Lily's heart pounded against her ribs. She quickened her pace, desperate to escape the whispers that seemed to claw at the edges of her sanity. But the forest held her captive. The trees seemed to reach out with gnarled branches, barring her way.
"Who's there? Show yourself."
Her voice echoed through the woods, swallowed by the shadows. Only the whispers answered, growing louder, more frantic. Lily's fear turned to determination. She would uncover the secrets of Black Hollow no matter the cost. Section 5. The Lost Souls. The whispers morphed into distinct voices. They were fragmented, tortured pleas echoing through the trees. Each one sent a fresh wave of terror through Lily's veins.
I realized with chilling certainty that these were the voices of the lost souls of Black Hollow.
She saw them then, fleeting glimpses of spectral figures flitting through the trees. Their forms were indistinct, shimmering like heat haze, yet their sorrow was palpable. It hung heavy in the air, suffocating her.
Help us.
We are trapped.
Lily stumbled back, her breath catching in her throat. The spectral figures pressed closer, their forms becoming more solid, their features slowly resolving into grotesque parodies of human faces.
Fear pulsed through my veins. I turned and ran, my footfalls heavy on the soft earth.
The voices pursued her, their cries growing louder, more desperate. Section 6. Trapped in Time. Lily burst through a thicket of trees and into a clearing. In the center stood a crumbling stone well. Its opening was dark and foreboding. As she stumbled to a halt, she realized with a sickening lurch that the voices had stopped. She was surrounded by an unnatural silence. The air was heavy, stagnant. It felt different here, as if time itself flowed differently within the clearing. A sense of dread settled over her, cold and suffocating.
I glanced back at the path I had just taken, but it was gone. The trees stood impassively, their branches forming a solid wall of green. I was trapped. Black Hollow had closed its grip on me, pulling me into its terrifying embrace.
As she cautiously approached the well, she noticed strange symbols etched into its stone. They were ancient and indecipherable. Lily reached out to touch them, and as her fingers brushed against the cold stone, a wave of dizziness washed over her. Section 7. The Pact. Images flooded Lily's mind, visions of the past, vivid and horrifying.
She saw the fire that had consumed Black Hollow, felt the searing heat and heard the screams of the dying. She saw the villagers, their faces contorted in terror as the flames engulfed their homes. Then a figure emerged from the flames. It was tall and skeletal, its eyes burning like embers.
It spoke, its voice a guttural rasp offering a twisted pact. The villagers could escape the fire, but their souls would be bound to the hollow for eternity.
Lily recoiled from the well, her heart pounding. She understood now. The lost souls were trapped, bound by a pact made in desperation, and she was caught in the middle of their torment. But how could she help them? How could she break a pact made in the heart of a raging inferno?
The air around her grew colder. She could feel the presence of the entity she had seen in her vision. It was here, in this clearing, its power woven into the fabric of the hollow. Lily knew she was in terrible danger. Section 8. Lily's Choice. A voice, raspy and laced with malicious amusement, echoed through the clearing.
You see the torment of the lost souls, little one. Their suffering sustains me, but there is a way to break the pact. A life for a life.
Who's there?
A soul for a soul. Offer me a life, and the lost souls will be freed. Refuse, and you will join them in their eternal torment.
Lily's breath caught in her throat. She understood the entity's game. It thrived on despair, on the suffering of trapped souls. To free them, she would have to condemn another to their fate. Panic surged through her. She couldn't do that. Could she? The weight of the decision pressed down on her, suffocating her. The faces of the lost souls flickered before her eyes, their pleas for release ringing in her ears. Section 9. A glimmer of hope. Lily closed her eyes, her mind racing. There had to be another way. She had to believe there was another way.
She thought back to the visions she had seen, to the desperation of the villagers as the flames closed in. She remembered the pact. A life for a life. But what if the life offered wasn't human? What if it was something else entirely? Something dark, something already tethered to the hollow.
She opened her eyes, a glimmer of hope flickering in their depths. She had to try. She had to find a way to outsmart the entity, to break the pact without condemning another soul to eternal torment. Lily took a deep breath, steeling her nerves. She would face the entity on her own terms. She would offer it a life, but not the life it expected. She would offer it her fear. Section 10. The echoes remain. The clearing was silent, the air thick with anticipation. The entity's presence pressed down on Lily, suffocating.
Well, have you made your choice?
I offer you this. I offer you my fear. Take it and release the lost souls of Black Hollow.
A low chuckle echoed through the clearing.
Your fear? A paltry offering?
But even as the entity spoke, Lily could sense a flicker of uncertainty in its voice. It had not expected this. It had not anticipated her defiance. The air crackled with energy. The symbols on the well glowed with an eerie light. Lily closed her eyes, focusing all her will, all her fear into a single point. She released it, a wave of pure terror that washed over the clearing. The entity screamed, a sound of pure rage and agony. The ground trembled beneath Lily's feet. Then silence. She opened her eyes to find the clearing empty. The well was nothing more than a pile of rubble. The lost souls were gone. Lily stumbled out of the clearing, her legs shaky beneath her. She had escaped Black Hollow, but its echoes remained, whispering through her dreams. She had faced her fears and emerged victorious. But at what cost? The question lingered, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lay hidden beneath the surface of the world.